On this episode of Low Budget Binge, expect slashers, cannibals, witches, Nazi zombies, intimate betrayals, and special guest star Charo. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. While you might be watching this video on the Kings of Horror Network, I urge you to click over to my ML Miller Frights page and give it a like, share with your buddies across the electronic superhighway, click subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Low Budget Binge is where we venture down the paths less traveled and look at low budget, no budget, do-it-yourselves, and sometimes international films that never get that top billing you see in the usual Hollywood releases. I'll indicate in the review and down below where you can find these films along with their trailers. Here we go. The Mark of the Bell Witch is new, on DVD, on demand, and digital download from Small Town Monsters. It's directed by Seth Breedlove. Small Town Monsters continues its series of documentaries telling tales of paranormal, cryptid, and strange folklore, with its latest documentary, The Mark of the Bell Witch. While I know the Bell Witch has been the subject of many a low-budget horror film, I must admit I wasn't completely familiar with the story behind it. Because of this, I found this documentary to be extremely entertaining and informative. While the titular entity is called a witch by the locals, this was much more of a broad term describing all paranormal phenomenon and things that weren't understood. The Bell Witch is actually more of an evil ghost than anything else, by the way it presents itself in the reports. Apparently, in the early to mid-1800s, John Bell and his family were tormented by an evil spirit they came to know as Kate, after its presence became more of a prominent fixture in their home. What started out as knocks and scrapes on the wall evolved into barely audible whispers, and the more the Bells paid attention to it, the louder and clearer Kate's voice became. Soon the family would have conversations with Kate, and people would come from other counties to interact with her. While skeptics thought the voices came from ventriloquism or other kinds of trickery, believers thought the Bells' home housed an evil force from the beyond. The witch seemed to be picky as to who it tormented. It would attack the younger daughter Betsy and the head of the household John, but took a liking to Mrs. Bell. One disturbing scene details a night where the Bell Witch entered a guest's bed. The sheets were wrapped around the spirit and they tried to throw it into the fire, but the bundle became too heavy to move and writhed around like a snake was inside. The whole thing culminated with the death of John, which of course the witch took credit for, and even was heard cackling from a tree as they buried his body. It's a pretty insane story, and now I think I might seek out some of those old Bell Witch movies to see if any of them do the story justice. This doc does a fantastic job of mapping out the years and showing all the events leading up to and beyond the Bell haunting. Even before the witch appeared, the land was said to be inhabited by giant birds and black dogs and other cursed monsters. Lights from swamp gas, also known as ghost lights, and the will-o'-the-wisp, were seen on the land. The doc talks with historians and locals who all know the story well and grew up around all of the legends and superstitions. By now, the guys at Small Town Monsters have their formula down pat. The filmmaker, Seth Breedlove, does a fantastic job of incorporating reenactments that don't suck and actually add to the feeling of unease that is cast by the narration telling the tales of this haunting. If you're a fan of cryptid and paranormal docs, but are tired of the vapid and uneventful ghost hunting shows, The Mark of the Bell Witch and the other docs from Small Town Monsters deliver all the good and none of the cringy bad by taking these stories seriously, but also looking at them through a historical, scientific, and cultural point of view. The Facility is new on DVD, on demand, and digital download from Uncorked Entertainment. It's directed and written by Matt Mitchell. A group of kids decide to explore an abandoned underground military facility for the hell of it. This triggers a silent alarm at a top-secret government office, and a group of 5 military types are sent in to extract the kids. Neither group have any knowledge of what the abandoned facility's purpose is, but soon they find themselves lost in the labyrinthine corridors and fighting for their lives against ghosts of the past and zombie creatures with bandages over their heads. When the two groups meet, they must team up in order to survive, but individuals in both groups seem to have ties to the facility's dark past that has connections to an otherworldly menace threatening to invade our own. Matt Mitchell seems to be an ambitious guy. Instead of making an out-and-out sequel to his smaller-budget zombie World War II film, The Risen, he's made an entirely different movie set in the same universe. While I doubt many saw the original The Risen, I found it to be a fun yet typical zombie movie that took advantage of its settings well and made for an exciting, though predictable, first-person shooter-style horror story. In The Facility, Mitchell seems to have learned from his experience and expanded upon the story by moving it to the present day, treating the original film as lore to build off of. While it doesn't make for the most original or deepest of inspirational material, it does give The Facility some lived-in history. You don't need to see The Risen before watching The Facility. For the most part, it's the same style and type of movie. The Facility is just a tighter and slicker package. Mixing Silent Hill with Aliens and As Above, So Below, The Facility is breezy military action horror that delivers all the tropes in a capable and competent manner. There's a gruff team leader, the Vasquez of the group, the Hudson, the Hicks. All of these aliens tropes are there, along with all of the military jargon and hardware. The film also does a good job of having reality shift between the past and the present, as well as this world and another more twisted one. The mystery and confusion felt by the explorers and the clueless mercs sent in to get them is communicated pretty well, propelling the story in a strong direction. All in all, in terms of suspense, tension, action, and adventure, Mitchell proves to be able to do it all well. What really impresses me is how much mileage Mitchell gets simply by having the cast move through what is most likely the same hallways and rooms in order to communicate an endless underground maze. Simple reverse angles and forced perspectives make this small-budget film look like an expansive epic. Add in some decent CG, which attempts to expand on the scope, and you have a film that knows how to tell a big story for little dough. While the film gets lost in its own lore at the end, The Facility proved to be a fun, breezy, and exciting little action horror film, and I look forward to see if filmmaker Mitchell pushes it further or moves on to other stories. While The Facility is basically a modern retelling of The Risen, it does so with a deft and clever hand. Paintball Massacre is new on-demand and digital download from Uncorked Entertainment. It's directed by Darren Barry and written by Chris Regan. A group of friends get together for a paintball match after attending their class reunion. While they're looking forward to an afternoon of horsing around, catching up with some longtime friends, and maybe getting some welts from paintballs, what they're not counting on is that one of their own might be the one picking them off for good, one by one, in the secluded and forested paintball course. The best word I can use to describe this British slasher is standard. I'm a big fan of slashers, and this film delivers all of the stuff you might associate with the subgenre. It's got a killer making its way through a woods, killing people one by one in various and creative ways, though occasionally the physics of these kills are a little weird. For example, somehow the killer stabs a sign all the way through the torso of one of his victims, despite the fact that it doesn't really have a sharp end. Still, if you're looking for a movie with a decently sized cast set up to be killed one by one, this one delivers. I also like the look of the killer, who wears armor and a helmet from head to toe and kind of looks like the Mandalorian by way of Marvel's The Taskmaster. He's an active and forest-savvy killer as well. This isn't a boring movie at all. The cast and killer are always on the move, and the fact that the cast understands that they are prey and the game is for keeps early on makes for some fun detours from your typical slasher fare. Still, the humor didn't really land well for me, and the cast is difficult to like. Both of these things are important, as some of the best slasher films out there have a rock-solid sense of humor and a cast worth investing in. The film also lacks a proper ending. It feels almost like the tape ran out and the filmmaker was like, okay, that's good enough, and went on to doing something else. Sure, there's some decent gore, though most of it is shown after the fact, as most of the kills happen off screen. There's also a few thrilling scenes and a decent body count, but the film just lacked that pop that makes it distinct from the rest of the slasher herd out there. This left me appreciating parts of Paintball Massacre, but not loving it. The Untold Story, aka the Eight Immortals restaurant, The Untold Story, is new on DVD and Blu-ray from Unearthed Films. It's directed by Herman Yao and written by Cam Phi Law and Wing Kin Law. The Untold Story is a bizarre little film that is part slasher, part exploitation, part police procedural, and part slapstick comedy. It tells the story of Wong Chi Hang, played by Anthony Chow Sang Wong, the owner and top chef at a restaurant in Hong Kong who has a hair-trigger temper, a gambling problem, and a tendency to murder people and make meat dumplings out of them. His restaurant, of course, is very popular, but beware the employee or customer who gets on Wong Chi Hang's bad side. The film not only follows the maniac through his day-to-day, but it also trails the police squad hunting for the killer. When arms and legs wash up on the shore, these goofy cops attempt to figure out who the limbs belong to and who killed the person. At least that's what they're trying to do when they aren't sexually harassing or violently hitting each other. Somehow the cops end up tracking down Wong Chi Hang, but he's a crafty lunatic and ends up escaping for one more murder spree to end all sprees. The elements of The Untold Story make it an extremely uneven watch. 1 minute, Wang Chi Hang is raping his employee and dismembering her. The next is a slapstick scene with the cops ogling the commissioner's latest date, who happens to be a hooker. The heft of the murders and the atrocities committed by Wong Chi Hang are hard to shake, and while I guess the humor scenes with the cartoonish cops are meant to lighten the heavy tone, they just don't match up. The cops never really show any prowess or seriousness about catching the killer. It's like splicing scenes of Police Academy City Under Siege with Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. It makes for a wonky watch. Wong Chi Hang is a horrifying maniac, though. Anthony Chow Sang Wong plays him with unblinking eyes, a downturned mouth, and a truly unpredictable demeanor. He looks like a nebbish introvert, but he actually shows a lot of strength and prowess when he gives into that berserker rage he keeps simmering right under the surface. It's even more disturbing when he is caught, as he shows no remorse and enjoys taunting the inept cops. The gore and assault scenes are disturbing, but far from the worst I've seen from Unearthed Films, known for its extreme horror content, gratuitous gore, perverse sexual deviance, and ultraviolence. In The Untold Story, there are multiple scenes of dismemberment, one gratuitous rape scene, and a massacre of an entire family full of screaming children. All of these scenes are disturbing in their own way, with the final massacre serving as a gruesome climax for the movie, and most likely its most memorable scene, as Wong Chi Hang murders with reckless abandon and ends up bathed in blood and gore. The Dragnet-style ending doesn't make for a solid landing, and feels more like they just ran out of film, kind of like Paintball Massacre. The Untold Story settles to tell us what happened before the credits. If you're a gorehound and into extreme and international cinema, The Untold Story, which was made in 1993, released in Hong Kong in 2003, but not released in the US until recently, is going to be a must-see. It's not the roughest stuff I've ever seen, but I'm warning you, this is going to be too extreme for some of the more casual horror fans out there. Finally, there's What Lies Below. It's new on demand and digital download from Vertical Entertainment and directed and written by Braden R. Doomler. When her mother, Michelle, played by Mina Suvari, picks her up from summer camp, teenager Liberty, played by Emma Horvath, is surprised to meet Michelle's new boyfriend, John Smith, played by Trey Tucker, living in their home. Liberty immediately crushes on John, who emerges from the lake in a Speedo when they first meet. Despite the fact that Michelle is obviously smitten with John, Liberty can't help but notice John's flirtatious moves towards her. But the more Liberty gets to know John, the more it seems there is something much more insidious going on. I hate to recommend a film because of the last 15 minutes, but that's what I'm going to do this time. What Lies Below is a film that might make you check and see if you've accidentally changed the channel to Lifetime movies. But the way it all wraps up is deep, deep, deep into the horror genre. This doesn't mean that the first hour and 15 minutes of What Lies Below isn't compelling cinema. The conflict between a middle-aged mother, her teenage daughter, and the man of both of their dreams is a compelling one. This is mainly due to the strong performances by these three actors. Trey Tucker isn't going to win any Oscars, but as the somewhat blank slate, hunky man of mystery, he fits the bill. On the surface, he's got everything a gal would want with the abs, head full of hair, and charming smile. But he also has that vacant blackness in his eyes that makes you feel like there's something unsettling under the surface. Emma Horvath is new to me, but she plays the awkward teen extremely well. Her performance feels genuine, full of confusion and curiosity for this new person in her mother's life. And what world do we live in that Mina Suvari is now playing the mom role? Suvari has always been an underappreciated actress, in my opinion. Here, in only a few conversations, she really evokes some wonderfully sympathetic moments. Seeing these three characters bob back and forth into each other in the complex drama of hidden and taboo passion is intriguing stuff, though it's not the subject matter I often see in the horror genre. If I gotta throw some criticism the way of What Lies Below, it's going to be how quickly Liberty's bond with her mom disintegrates as she develops these feelings for her mom's boyfriend. I understand there's an attraction there, but the fact that Liberty acts upon these impulses and seems to be able to betray her mom really speaks to Liberty's character, or lack thereof, and ultimately doesn't make her really likable. Since this is a film that follows Liberty the entire time, I eventually found myself empathizing with her, but there's a sense of you get what you deserve once the final moments drop, a sort of satisfying end to a character making questionable decisions. I still think Liberty would be a much more sympathetic character had she less of a part in her own fate. And what a fate is reached by the time this relationship drama finally plays out. While I was willing to give this film a decent recommendation simply as an entertaining drama of conflicting morals and taboo urges, I wasn't prepared to be kneecapped by the ending filled with shock, awe, and body horror. What Lies Below would be a great double feature with Lee Janiak's shocker Honeymoon. While not a lot is explained, the horrors unleashed are intense, violent, and terrifying. Stick with this one. It's drama heavy and slow to rev up, but strap yourself in for that ending. It's a wild one. That'll be it for today. Please chime in the comments down below and let me know what you think of this video, how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. If you like this video, please pound that thumbs up button. Share this video with your social media addicted pals. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on mlmillerwrites.com. And don't forget I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look out for. Grave Trancers is out right now, and so is Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, and they're only going to be in the finest of comic book shops. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for alerts to be the first to see my future videos. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're